Good morning, afternoon, evening to all the pirates out there on those TCG seas. My name is Gabriel, and this is Romance Dawn, a One Piece TCG podcast. Today, we'll be diving into the Nationals meta and preparation for that big event happening in Los Angeles, all around the region. I'm joined today by a special guest to discuss this, content creator and high level player, if I do say so myself, Heart Pirates TCG. How's it going, man?
What's up, man? That's a great intro right there.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we're still workshopping it, episode two, still trying to get our bearings, but I like that little alliteration with TCGCs. I'm definitely keeping that one.
I like that a lot. So that's yeah, that's pretty cool. I wish I would have thought of that.
Nice. Well, I would say feel free to use it, but gonna need some credit on that one if you do end up doing it in any way, shape, or form.
I'll go
Uh,
ahead and do that. Yeah.
well, before we get started, we're gonna talk all things nationals, all things involving the competitive scene. I'm gonna do a little bit of housekeeping first. First thing, really quickly, people wanted to know our intro and outro song. For the previous episode, we are using music by Good Kid, and the song is called Nomu. It's a great band. They offer DMCA free music. I know the guys personally, they're fucking awesome. So shout out to them. Second little housekeeping thing is the giveaway that we're doing. So if you listen to episode one, you know that I had quite strong feelings about the first anniversary tournament and the difficulty people had in registering for them. Potentially, they didn't get access to any at all. In an effort to get some of these promos more in the hands of players who couldn't attend, we here at Romance Dawn are going to be giving away the winner's choice of either the first anniversary Luffy Dawn or the participant Monkey D. Luffy from those first anniversary events. So, how do you win? Super simple. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, and then like and retweet our giveaway post on Twitter/X. Once you do that, you'll be entered into a draw, and then the winner will have to get the details to be able to ship that out in the safest possible way. So, really excited for that. Really hoping that we can get more of these promos in the hands of people who weren't able to attend. I guess Heart Pirates, were you able to attend any first anniversaries at all? How many were you able to register for?
Yeah, I actually I didn't know about the anniversary. Dude, as much as I am like invested in this game, when it comes to announcements, I don't like even hear about them half the time. So I was only able to register for one constructed. Luckily, I did win that one,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
thank you, thank you. The Luffy was very helpful for my Christmas time shopping. So uh I think I undervalued it though because as soon as I sold it, it went up to like $600. So
Something like
very
that,
sad
yeah.
about that. Yep. So yeah, I signed up for a sealed one, but for me, sealed is like just a joke because I just pay $40 for bulk and then get zero 2Ks. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the constructed, or I'm sorry, the sealed, but the constructed one was a lot of fun, and I like playing for like unique prizes. So
Oh, for sure. I did a constructed and a sealed one, so I did two in total. But for the sealed one, I had to drive 2 hours out to be able to attend that
jeez,
event.
dude.
Yeah,
Wow.
or sorry, for the constructed one, the sealed one. I thought I was lucky because I pulled a base gear 5 Luffy, and then I faced my round one opponent, and he had two. Which kind of wrecked
Sounds about
me.
right.
Yeah, so totally agree with you. Sealed can be, especially because boxes have guaranteed hits. If
Yep.
you don't get one of those guaranteed hits, you're probably gonna be a little behind, right?
Or
So,
even this, like if they just get like one, like a lot of the times the super rares are like what really carry the game,
oh,
right?
for
So like,
sure.
like Doflamingo 10 cost, or like even like something like Red Rock, like last set. Like if you got Red Rock and your opponent didn't, like it was so hard to win that game,
Oh
man. It
yeah,
was
this
just
set it was like getting the Borsalino. I think the 7 cost. It's just
yeah,
killer because you get to,
so insane.
yeah, a lot of the blockers cost 4 or less, and you just get to wreck them. Getting Hound Blazes too, I think was really solid because if you get Hound
Oh,
Blaze, you have the
absolutely.
Kid leader. You're just swinging like 8 or 9 plus, uh, 2 times. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you swing 13-13. But yeah, the another thing that people didn't realize is Purple Luffy is the best leader for sealed because the ability to ramp to like 5 or 6 dawn and play that vanilla before your opponent
Oh,
can,
for sure.
like there's no removal in like sealed almost, like except for like obviously like the red rock or something. So like if you could just ramp to like 5 or 6 dawn and just like play down a 5-7 or a 6-8, it feels like it feels very oppressive. And a lot of people that ended up winning the sealed tournament played purple Luffy because it's just so good. Like a 12-12 swing is great, but like playing a 5-7 first feels just like even better sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that definitely my experience was if you're playing Purple Luffy, a lot of Zoros as well did very well in what I saw, and then the kid leader. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, overall those are all solid choices. But we're not here to
Yeah.
talk about sealed. I think one of the more important things to talk about is nationals on the horizon. I think it's a pretty exciting time to be a One Piece TCG player. There's a lot of great support happening. Locals all around, at least my area, are full and people are on a wait list to like attend them and to be able to get access to them. Events registration can, for special events, sell out within seconds. It's a good and bad thing. It
Yeah.
shows that the game has a healthy playing population, which is great. The market's a little crazy right now. We covered that in the last episode. But most importantly, I think this is going to be a really big capstone event for the game. The game's been out for about a year in the West, and this is going to be the first big regional championship for the game. And so there will be thousands of people probably descending upon LA, hoping to test their mettle and really get involved in that. You're going to be one of those people, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm planning on it. My friends are a little flaky, it seems, but I'm hoping that we can get there in a affordable manner.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, part of getting ready for the event at the end of the day is always going to be playtesting, preparation, etc. One of the most interesting things to come out of the One Piece TCG recently is the development of the online sim and actually rank servers, which just kind of popped up out of nowhere at the beginning of this year. Tell me about your experience playing on the quote unquote ranked servers and using the simulation to prepare for nationals.
Sure, yeah. I like you didn't know a thing about him until like a couple weeks ago. And the Rank Simulator League people are very nice and very I don't know, I think they're providing a really good service for people that are really trying to play test
For sure.
and get better, and I respect that a lot. I will say the first little season that they had, I was like trolling with like Sabo and Blurple Croc and all of these decks that probably shouldn't be taken to the rank simulator. So my MMR was just horrendous. Uh, and I switched obviously to just basically just playing Sakazuki on the rank sim, and it's been much better for me since then. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good on the rank simulator. I'm trying to get to the number one spot, and I'm on my way to. So I'm liking it.
So which one do you use more? Because I know there's kind of two that operate, and they seem to operate similarly using the same Discord bot to queue up, etc. Which one have you found to be a better experience, or is it just kind of a wash?
So the one that I use is the Rank Simulator League, the first one that came out. They've been super supportive of me. You know, even like when I was hosting my online Pirate Cup tournament, they were like, "Hey, and like we'll shout it out in our Discord, see if anyone else wants to join last minute." And we were able to get to our goal,
Nice.
partially thanks to them. So, yeah, they've been supportive of me, so I'll be very supportive of them. I'm a very loyal guy.
Nice. Yeah, I've used both. I found the experience to be pretty similar, especially including the experience of decks you play against. It feels like everyone's kind of cycling through the same decks. I've had no problems with reporting matches. People have been very what's the best term? I guess honest in terms of uh, reporting matches properly and making sure the games are played out correctly. No one in my experience has also used banned cards or cards that are existing in future sets. things like that. So I haven't had any run-ins like that, but I do understand that some people have. But overall, my experience has been very positive. People are very nice in the game as well. There's some great chatting, that happens. Some faux shit talking, things like that. Fun,
Yeah.
yeah, just laughing about silly, absurd things that have happened. Like, I had a person yesterday or 2 days ago. They're like Katakuri versus my Sakazuki, and they're like, "Man, I can't believe how close this game is." And I'm like, "Well, you're about to 10 mom me 2 times, and then this will not be as close as you're saying it is right now." And then lo
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
behold, 2 turns later, I see 2 10 moms on the field and a big "you lose" sign just flashing in front of me. I'm like, great.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds like Katakuri for you.
Yeah. But you mentioned that you're starting to grind Sakazuki. You actually posted a Sakazuki build video today. We're recording January 15th, 2024. And I found this build super interesting. I watched the whole video. I want to talk to you about it because I think it's a very refreshing take on Sakazuki, but I also am curious about some of the weaknesses that we might see in this build as well, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So firstly, do you want to explain kind of the key differences in your Sakazuki build that you posted a video on? And
This is the one today, right?
yeah, this is the one today. It includes things like the Pilaf and the Mihawks.
Okay, yeah. I will say I have always kind of like I've always like built my own decks because I feel like I play very different than other people. So whenever I play games, I don't really look at decks online. Like maybe like as like a base to see like, okay, what is everyone trying to do and how can I like, make it a little bit better for me?
For sure.
And so I experimented with I said this in the video, I experimented with like Blue Hina and then Ulti and, Sanji's Pilaf and like all of these cards. And I found that like if I was forced to go first, like my strategy was just like I was just done. Like I was dead in the water. And so I wanted to play a way where like even if I win the dice roll, of course I go second, but even if I lost the dice roll, I was still okay going first. And I lost almost every dice roll in the entire like in the entire case tournament. I played 3 mirror matches. I won all of those. I played 2 purple Luffy's. I lost both dice rolls to them. Like I feel like I lose dice rolls all the time, so I want to build my deck in a way that like when I do lose dice roll, not if, but when I lose dice roll, I'm okay. Right.
Right.
So I started playing cards that were like really good on curve going first. So Pilaf obviously I think is slightly better than Blue Hina, at least from what I have been experiencing. And then obviously Borsalino, 3 of them is really good on curve, and Mihawk. So I built my deck a little bit greedier on the top end, especially because decks like a Nell, if they were playing like Star of a Nell or even Katakuri, like sometimes like the like bottom decking the Katakuri with Mihawk on curve, with your leader effect in
Yep.
combination
Yep.
is just really, really, really powerful. So that, and then obviously I'm playing the Kaido as well, just to help with the mirror matches, and it's also great into yellow as well. So I'm playing a little bit greedier on the top end, and the only real weakness I have is like something like Purple Luffy drawing super well and like consistent, and then being able to like double Magellan me, and then now my top end's kind of gone. So I'm playing less like low end and a little bit more top end. So that's a little bit of an issue, and that's why my only loss was actually to Purple Luffy. But this guy was like a very good player, so I'm not really too like he's going to Nats. He's won a serial Luffy as well, so it's not
Gotcha.
like I lost some scrub.
Yeah. One of the things, just to illustrate kind of the whole listen, I'm losing every dice roll, I'm going first every time, it's so annoying thing, is you have zero Kuzans in this build, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting choice. I like your rationale for it, saying, listen, this build is actually more resilient to yellow removal, right? And removal in the mirror, because now I'm not having situations where my play gets Gadatsu'd really easily or my play gets Thunderbolted really easily. Um, so no Kuzans. I think you're replacing that draw engine as well, and the Hina potential draw engine with the Pilafs. And the potential for the Pilafs, of course, the trigger is really helpful, I imagine. Um,
yeah.
my question to you is the first question is, does going second now feel much worse with your build because you have less four Dawn options, right? More often than not, maybe your four Dawn option feels like peel off plus a 6k swing, or you get a brand new on board and you have like a weird Hound Blaze turn that you have to do. Maybe you have to do a straight Lucci, but that sounds pretty rough in a lot of cases unless you're against like red or
You would be
RP
surprised.
law. Really?
Yeah, so let me so just real quick, let me talk about the Kuzan and then I'll segment to what you just asked. But the reason I stopped playing Kuzan is because Kuzan was for yellow and Mihawk is just better into yellow for what I'm trying to do. So like if I'm playing a card for yellow, why not play a card that is like less easily removed and is more impactful on play? Of
Right.
course it comes later in the game, but I feel like Kuzan, even in the mirror match, is just fantastic. But you know, to segment to what you were talking about was yeah, like I don't miss Kuzan at all. Like Sakazuki, I don't really care too much about building a board like in like the very early game because the entire deck is a reactionary deck. So like I'm just all I'm doing is killing what you have. And a lot of times what you have on board in the early game isn't really worth killing. And I can get away with like if I have the Borsalino great on my turn, or I could just, you know, play another brand new. I could, you know, just like peel off and you know, I'm good to go. As long as I'm keeping myself safe in the early game, I feel like I can propel myself into a really good position later on in the game because I'm just like, you know, drawing cards off peel off or just playing a second brand new. Like my game doesn't like have to go, okay, I need to go brand new. I need to go into Kuzan and then I need to go Rebecca Hina Hound Blaze. Like it's just it feels like of course I might not have like a turn two play, but like at the same time, like I still have plenty of cards that can go into turn two like options. And you know, Lucci in the mirror match, like on curve, like I actually would rather Lucci in the mirror match. Like let's say I like they have like a blue Hina or something like that. I'd rather just play Lucci to pop the blue Hina than play like Borsalino or Kuzan because all they're gonna do is Great Eruption, Hound Blaze the one of those anyway. And like if they do that with the blue Hina, they're swinging 7/7, and like that is a very dangerous thing. So like in the mirror match, like just like hard playing Lucci and just popping like a brand new or a blue Hina is in my opinion sometimes a lot better than just like playing Bors or Kuzan because all they're gonna do is bottom deck it and they're gonna like put pressure on your life, which is how Sakazuki loses a lot of games is like too much early pressure and now I can't play like my big guys because I'm gonna
Yeah,
die.
exactly. Like a lot of 6k swings, and then you have to cycle into things that into more of your removal and remove
Exactly.
a lot of your top end threat. Yeah, 100%. I've been
Yeah.
in so many situations where like I'm keeping this 10 cost Kaido, and then the game suddenly changes such that I have to bin it, you know, or something similar. So a lot of your top end, then you're adding the Mihawks, you're making sure it's still reactionary, and it's reactionary to the top end because now you get to one for one things with the Mihawk instead of two for one or three for one in a lot of situations, right? Where maybe you have to like Rebecca, Hina, Lucci, plus Great Eruption on 9 instead of just playing the Mihawk outright, having this huge threat instead of it broken down into many different little threats that are easily responded to by decks such as the Mirror or Yellow. Is that like a fair representation of your logic here?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. The thing is, like, if I go first, which they're always going to make you go first in the mirror match, especially, like the cleanest answer to your Borsalino is a Great Eruption leader effect as well as you know their own Borsalino. So like, if you could just have a clean answer for like a Mihawk, they're not gonna let that Mihawk stay on the board. They're gonna find some way to kill it, right? Which is like Rebecca Hinaluchi or you know some type of way to
Or
kill
like
it.
Ice Age second Borsalino or something like that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the second they do that, if I drop Kaido, I feel like I instantly win the game.
Right.
Like you just wasted all of your resources, or at least most of the time, right? On the Mihawk, and then I drop Kaido, and now I just draw four. And now, do you have the resources to also get rid of Kaido? Probably not. And if you can't kill Kaido, I'm following up with Sabo, and now you sure as hell can't kill Kaido.
Right, and
And
then
it just
also
feels
like
great.
they don't want to swing with the second Borsalino swinging the 8k. You see this 12k staring right at you. You're gonna lose a lot of board presence potentially, uh,
Absolutely.
and then you get the reaction turn to potentially get rid of that Borsalino, even though they don't swing with it. Right? Maybe you get to Ice Age Hound Blaze or have a Rebecca Hina situation. Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. The thing is, like, I tell everyone, everyone that I coach that like Sakazuki, your first couple bodies that you play out are just cannon fodder. Like
For
they will
sure.
get removed.
Yeah.
And like if you the Mihawk is literally just like if it stays on the field, great. I already did its job. And if it doesn't, well then you have no gas. And now I'm just gonna have Rebecca Hinaluchi your board because you wasted all of your resources on Mihawk.
Yeah, your Mihawk theory, I guess, is something that I played around with the former 10 cost Kaido, but I found that card, the OPO4 version of Kaido,
Yeah.
found that card to be pretty underwhelming because it puts the cards back in their hand, whereas Mihawk does not. So, uh, totally understand the logic there. It's something that I was trying to play around with too, because like that 10 cost 04 Kaido, you get to swing and clear a 9 cost creature like a Yamato, or you get to bounce a Katakuri and a Brule at once, things like that. But totally in line with the logic here. I actually agree with it a lot, and it's interesting that you don't feel like you're that going second is much worse for you now because you've removed these options and you've settled for more of an odd curve. So I really like your interpretation of the build. Personally, I'm not too sure about Sanji's Pilaf. Um, that just from my experience, it feels very much like you're doing nothing. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like the card advantage is just too good?
Can I can I tell you a funny story about that, Gabe?
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a guy who was with me at the case tournament that was playing Blue Hina for like the entire set. And every single time that him and I played, he was like, I'm just not sure about Pilaf. I'm not sure about Pilaf. And on the so he got top 8 at the case tournament. I got 10th. We both went 5-1.
Congrats to him.
Um, yeah, he's really good, right? His name is Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. And at the end, like we were talking, and he was like, when I first started getting into the game, Cross AI would swear that like Blue Hina was like the best, and like I considered Cross AI the best player in the world. This is what he was telling me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I put Pilaf into my deck, and I do think Cross is the best player in the world, but I think you might be right on Pilaf. He literally told me that. I was like, wow, like I finally so like for the entire set he's been playing Blue Hina and he's been swearing by it, and he put Pilaf. We actually did the opposite. I took out my Pilafs for that case tournament and put in the Blue Hina, and he put in the Pilafs for the Blue Hina, and he said it won him more games than Blue Hina ever would.
Oh wow.
Like not only did he trigger it once, but he also like went he had to go first in the mirror match, and he played it on turn 2, and it just felt really good for him. So like Pilaf in theory feels like you're not doing anything, and like you're technically not. But like having that easy card to discard, having the potential to draw 2 off trigger, and potentially just drawing 2 in the beginning of the game makes them play a certain way. And even because I play 10 2Ks, if I can get the advantage off one Pilaf, I can drop Kaido so safely because already have 8 cards in hand or 7 cards in hand. If I
Right.
drop Kaido, I'm going to like 11 or 12. And like good luck killing me now. You know what I'm saying? Even if you
Right.
get rid of the Kaido, I'm just clearing your board with all the cards I have in my hand now.
Do you try to avoid Pilaf in like the Ploofy matchup? Because your turn 3 Pilaf ends up getting turn 4 Trafalgar Laud, or
Yeah.
RP Law, like Law situation where, okay, now I'm turn 3, I just drew a card, and then I play Pilaf, I'm +1, I'm at 7 cards. And then the law just comes down
Yeah.
and ruins your day, right? Is that are you avoiding that? And then the second question, I guess, is do you feel like uh, uh, against yellow in particular that you're not you don't put enough pressure on the yellow player early? Is that kind of your strategy, is like you just want to build up resources against a yellow player and then win with your top end?
Well, there's a those are, I mean you're asking some really good questions actually. But so yeah, against Purple Luffy you don't you mulligan you hard mulligan for Hound Blaze, right? Hound
Yep,
Blaze and Brand New is like the two best cards, right? Because you Hound Blaze the active character and then you swing into the one that's already attacked. It's usually like Magellan, and then swing into like a page 1 for like 8 or 9K.
for sure.
Which clears their board. So of course you want to stay away from the peel off in there. Against yellow, I of course like establishing a body so I can Hound Blaze and then give like Brand New like the target, or even like Luhina like the plus 3,000 to add a little bit of pressure on there. But like I've found that like Enel, if they play the Star of Enel, Sanji's peel off just immediately just gets rid of that immediately, right? So like their whole strategy is dead, right? Same with Kaido. Like if they're playing Star of Enel and then I just draw two or draw four, like your whole game plan's out the window, and
For
now
sure.
I'm in the lead. I'm in the driver's seat. So Katakuri, I played three of them on the rank simulator at around 13, 1400 MMR, so like pretty good players. And I beat two of them and lost to a third because I literally messed up. Like I searched for the wrong card off Moncherie and it literally and it cost me. And I recognized it as soon as I clicked on that card. I was like, damn, this is gonna lose me the game. So if I did the right card, I actually have enough. Like I already like went back and looked at the tape. If I got the Hina, and then with Rebecca, I searched for the Sabo in the trash. I win all three of the Katakuri games too. Um, so I just feel like I don't have a problem like beating yellow with this deck. I mean, this is pretty much the exact same deck that I grinded on the rank simulator with, and I feel just great into all those matchups. I really don't have like a matchup where I go into. Of course, you don't want to play yellow, but I don't have a matchup where I'm like, damn it, like I just can't win this, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, you're walking into the yellow casino and you're like, you got chips in your pocket. You see,
Yep.
the deck's hot for you. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Uh,
it just feels good, man.
are you concerned about, for example, I notice you don't play many blockers, right? I believe you're on two Borsellino, two Sabo, according to the video. Are you concerned about the Whitebeard or the Zoro matchups or even RP Law?
So I did the changes I did make to my deck is I took out the Marineford for a third Borsellino
Gotcha.
blocker. So Whitebeard is very scary. Whitebeard is always going to be a scary deck. I think that deck should like continue to stay being banned. I hate how they unbanned it.
Well, we're
Um
gonna talk about that later because I have some great data for you on that.
I would love to hear it. So, yeah, Whitebeard is scary. I don't really want to see Whitebeard, but then again, like I've beaten plenty of Whitebeards, so it's probably that. Now that you say that, that probably is the deck I don't want to see. Zoro, I don't think is a problem at all. I like you mulligan for Lucci. If you find Lucci, I feel like you just win the game
Same
straight
with
up.
RP Law, I imagine feels pretty similar. You find
Yeah,
Lucci, maybe you, especially going first, if you're able to get that turn five like Great Eruption plus a swing plus the Lucci, you're probably in really good shape.
either way, like going second, if you see like a Lucci and like a Great Eruption or a Houndblaze or an Ice Age or something like that, I just feel like Red Purple Law, all you gotta do is starve them out and you just like win the game automatically.
For
Starve them
sure.
out and then like pop a couple of their characters. Like they play characters from hand, they reduce cards from hand, they counter from hand. Like they're gonna have one or two cards in hand. Good luck trying to kill me.
Yeah, I was actually playing a Sakazuki against one of the Team PDC guys playing RP Law, and he like slammed a Zoro down, Zoro Jiro to ramp the
Yeah.
Dawn, and then I just didn't swing into him at all, and then he just like forgot that the card only works at three or when he's at three or less life, so he swung at me for 5k, like putting a Dawn on him, and
Yep.
was like, wait a second, like why am I not getting this extra Dawn? Like that's an example of like starving him out, right? Like you don't get this
Yeah.
extra Dawn. Like I don't care if I give up a life or like get a card to do that.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then
a good tech is Fire Fist too. If they're not at two or less life, they can't like pop a zero cost.
yeah,
So like they're just getting the
exactly.
minus.
Yeah. So it's really funny to see him suddenly be like, okay, I'm actually like probably gonna take out all the Zorojiros if I'm playing against someone with a brain and they can just do that. So
Yeah, pretty much.
pretty
Yeah,
funny.
If I see red purple law across from me, I feel like I just automatically win the
Oh
game.
yeah,
Like
sure. It's a buy.
like
It's
no
a
offense.
buy.
Yeah, like that. I told my friend the other day, like that's technically like my favorite deck I've ever played because it's so unique and fun.
Oh yeah.
But like it's so bad right now.
We'll get into that too, because I there. You know what? We can just get into that now because I think uh, one of the things that people don't really do in the One Piece game that I've noticed, compared to Magic, like I've played Magic for years, so there's a lot of discussion about like win rate, match win rate, meta share, conversion into top cut, that I don't really see as much of in the One Piece world. Kind of wanted to dive into some numbers with you and then kind of get initial thoughts. I haven't shared any of these numbers with you yet, pre-recording, so it's gonna be interesting to get like instant reaction. So I hope you're looking forward to that because based off the January tournament reports, um, there's going to be some interesting findings and interesting questions that pop up. So you want to get started with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first off, we're going to jump actually across the Atlantic. We're going to go to European tournament results. Maybe we can find some thoughts and information there. So the first
I
big
know
one.
Sakazuki. Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the first big one is gonna be the Paris Treasure Cup, which yeah, we're gonna talk about Sakazuki for sure involving this tournament. Um,
Yeah,
let me throw some numbers at you, okay? So in the Paris Treasure Cup, which I believe happened earlier this month, if I recall correctly, Sakazuki was a 31.74 meta share, meaning of all decks submitted in this tournament, over 31% of them were Sakazuki. You had a 3 in 10 chance probably of playing against a Sakazuki.
that's not that bad,
So,
honestly. I would have thought it'd be more.
well, maybe it should be because Sakazuki ended up with a 56.01 win rate at this tournament. It also won the event and converted 6 of the top 8, meaning that of the top 8 decks, 6 of them were Sakazuki. Now, the yellow duo, Enel and Katakuri, combined for about 28.8% of the metagame at this tournament. Enel won 51.2%, 0 conversions, it looks like, and then Katakuri won 52.2% with 1 conversion. Now,
Conversion to top 8, right?
yes, conversion to top 8. Now,
Okay.
the Luffy's is where it gets interesting. So the Luffy's, RP Luffy and Pluffy, were a combined 17.5% meta share. Pluffy ended with a 45% win rate, and our Pluffy ended with 42.4%.
Yeah.
Now, the most interesting one to me, that's brutal for Luffy. I think the main character's got to step it up. I think that,
Yeah.
like you said, Pluffy, if they get their hand, the proper curve, it seems very strong. But it seems like at this tournament they weren't really seeing that as much. Now the final conversion, because we covered 7 of the 8, 1 Katakuri, 6 Sakazuki. The final conversion into top 8 was Edward Newgate,
Of course.
3.4% meta share, 56% win rate. So a better conversion rate than the Sakazuki on a
Yep.
similar win rate, right? Now we're going to
Yep.
jump into January 14th. In the UK, they had the Jozu and Chopper Cups, both at Edgeley Park. Uh, Kind of some notable things. There was a Rebecca conversion into the top cut, as well as a super strong Newgate showing, both kind of carried by one player, but Newgate had an 83% win rate at one of these tournaments, and a 60% win rate at the other. Again, kind of mostly coming from one player who ended up winning both those events as Newgate. Katakuri showed up at this event with a 56.4% win rate and a 58% win rate at both of these events, respectively. So the Jozu and the Chopper Cup. And Nell hovering around 50% at both these events. So I guess with all that in mind, I threw a lot of numbers at you over there, Joey. Uh,
I'm following.
what do you think of the EU meta? How do you think it's functioning so far, and what do you see as kind of interesting things that jump out to you?
So what's really funny is I talked about this a little bit actually with some of my people on my Discord, but the EU meta is what everyone thought the American meta would be, right? It's just like straight up, just like Sakazuki, just everywhere, right? And just like converting and just doing really well. But like when I tell you, like I feel like people just don't experiment enough with like the other. I think America experiments the most with like beating meta decks, which is why it's just not as good. Like Sakazuki just isn't converting as much here. Like like the American or the EU meta has like basically just taken what they think Japan and like the East does. Or I'm sorry, yeah, the East does,
Yeah,
and they just copied it and just play that exact same meta. But like some people are smart and figured out that Katakuri can easily beat Sakazuki, right? And then Whitebeard can easily beat Sakazuki and Katakuri.
For sure.
So like if more people just realize that like Sakazuki isn't as overwhelmingly unfair as they think, they will like get to a more diverse meta, which is what I think America has right now. So I know I kind of gave you a little analysis for both metas, but like my thoughts on EU is they need to experiment with more decks instead
Yeah.
of just playing Sakazuki if they think Sakazuki is a big problem.
Well, I think they're starting to do that. As I mentioned, this tournament, the UK tournaments in question, they were capped at 64 players. But you saw this tournament happened yesterday in the UK, and you saw, and this is January 14th, 2024, and you're seeing the category win rate kind of spike compared to the Treasure Cup. So, like I said, Enel 51%, category 52% in Paris, but at the Jozu and Chopper Cup at Edgeley Park, category suddenly, Enel's kind of wavering, but category
Yeah.
spiked, right? 56 and 58%, very, very strong showings uh, there. So I totally agree with you. I think EU looked a little stagnant into the Treasure Cup. I think people probably just played what they thought would be good in order to try and get the Treasure Cup prizing, as best
Yeah.
as they could.
And there's no fault to them for doing that though
Oh,
either.
100%. And then as that tournament ends and we start to get more and more games in, right, in the sim or on tabletop and otherwise, that these yellow decks and even weirder decks, I mentioned there's a Rebecca conversion into the top cut yesterday in Europe, are starting to pop up. So, yeah, definitely can agree with that perspective there. Now, jumping into North America, the other kind of grouping of tournaments that I'm going to bring up for data are the Eggman events. So we have an end of 2023 event and the half case event, which I believe ended yesterday, if I recall correctly, yesterday or 2 days ago. So just a small acknowledgement on the end of 2023 event, because I think it's a very funny look into the past of when the OPO5 meta started, and then look at the half case event now and see how that has changed, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk the end of 2023 event. So that was December 20th, I believe, or around that timing, is the Eggman 2023 event. Shout out to Eggman Events, all doing a lot of good work there to beef up the scene in NA. Unfortunately, one of the things we don't have is the win rates of these decks. So
Yeah.
sorry about that. So Enel, of the 20 Enel decks, 5 converted into top 16. That's a 25% conversion rate. Sakazuki had over 25% of submitted decks, 9% conversion rate, so 6 of the top 16 were Sakazuki. Katakuri converted 1 of 13 decks for 7.7%. And then RP Law, funny enough how we were just talking about that, showing was super solid, actually converted a deck into the top 16. We don't know
That's amazing.
yeah, we don't know the rate. We don't know how many were submitted, but he did not show up in the top leaders at all. So one RP Law, potentially of a couple, for a really high conversion rate. Of course, we don't know the win rate. We don't know the win rate based on turns, things like that. But solid showing at the end of 2023. Now, moving to the half case event, it's very, very different. First off, shout out to his fellow esports industry colleague Michael Artress for his second place finish with Enel. Speaking of Enel, at the half case event, 41 entries of Enel, converting 3 into top 16. Sakazuki had 60 entries, converting 5 into the top 16. Katakuri converting 3 top 16 showings from 31 submitted decks. And then Edward Newgate, basically not showing up in the top leaders at all, converted a top 16. So another little sneaky Edward Newgate showing coming up here. What do you think of the Eggman events? Unfortunately, again, I don't have the win rates in this case in front of me. I couldn't find them. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, the difference that you see between that end of 2023 event to where we are just a few weeks later now?
Sure, yeah. So the conversion rates I don't pay too much attention to because it's like if they're like it's gonna be the most represented deck is gonna have probably the worst conversion rate because so many people there's only so many spots in top 16, right?
For
16
sure.
spots. So if like everyone plays Sakazuki, it's gonna have like a 1% conversion rate, right? It's not so like the numbers on that are a little bit skewed. I will say that people, especially the people that I have been coaching, understand now how to play against Enel. So like I feel like Anel is just losing a lot. Like no matter what the conversion rate is, I feel like Anel is just losing a lot of like steam because it is the ultimate like noob Punisher like noob stomper deck where like if you don't know how to play against it, you're gonna lose so many games because they're just gonna get free value. Whereas like the people that I have been coaching, like they have been just like destroy like not destroying an L because it's obviously a luck based deck and like you can get unlucky, but they're so much like better equipped to be able to like go into these like yellow metas and be able to like beat them because they know exactly what to do now. So I think the more people that play at a high level that know how to play against an L, the less you're gonna see. And with respect to like the Eggman tournament, it's obviously not going to be nearly as competitive as like Nats will be, right? Because
For
like
sure.
everyone in Nats is going to be like a very well equipped, well knowledge player. So I think that going into Nats, it's going to be a lot different for Yellow. I don't think Yellow is going to be nearly as good as people might think it is because people like you're not playing on the sim anymore. You're not playing it like even like a case tournament. Like of course you're gonna have some really good players, right? Like or a half case tournament, you're gonna have some really good players, but like half of them are probably still not gonna know how to play against yellow, and like half the wins are probably gonna come against them, right?
Right. Right.
And the higher you get into these tournaments, that the harder the harder it'll be to find like undefeated like Enel players, like undefeated Katakuri players. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying like the reason that you see them kind of like falling off just a little bit is just because, you know, it's it's more figured out now that like that's how you beat that deck.
Right. Right. Yeah. Just to illustrate, and we'll get into the core TCG regionals as kind of the final data set here. Um, the NL win rate kind of has been staying hovering over the last few weeks, whereas the Katakuri win rate has actually climbed dramatically from that yellow contingent there. We're starting out. We'll get into the core TCG regionals to really illustrate this, but it's really interesting to see how yellow itself has kind of evolved, and what yellow players are thinking about heading into nationals.
Yeah.
Going into core TCG regionals real quick. LA is going to be where this tournament is, so this regional meta may reveal more than we think about what's going to happen there. So I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this regional event really started the yellow wave in NA. I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but Enel wins and converts 7% into the top 16. Sakazuki, to your point about conversion not being the best indicator of strength, has the most top 16 representation, but converted 4.6%. And
Can you say that
Katakuri,
one more time?
so
You broke up a little bit for
oh,
me.
sorry. Sakazuki, the most top 16 representation at core TCG regionals. But to your point about conversion rates, only converted 4.6% because of it being such a highly represented deck.
Yeah.
Katakuri, very poor showing at this tournament. Um, Newer leaders kind of dominating. You had your ST10 leaders, a lot of the O5 leaders in Plufi, Anel, and Sakazuki doing very, very well at this tournament and converting to top 16. And as a side note, again, Edward Newgate popping up at this tournament, better conversion rate than Sakazuki as well, in terms of making it to the top 16. So I guess we
That
kind
deck
of,
will always just be viable, man.
yeah.
Always.
So I was gonna. I mean, this kind of jumps into these questions that I have. We kind of answered the first one, which is, hey, the new leaders have been out for a while now. We're looking at a month and a bit, and now seems to be slowly getting figured out. You kind of mentioned this as well. Uh, and alternatively, bad players could just be picking up Enel after its initial success at core TCG. Katakuri players are grinding up the win rates slowly but surely. You see win rates go from sub 50% at some tournaments to now, as of yesterday in Europe, 58%. So I guess the
Can I
question,
can I just note on that real quick, Gabe? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
I forgot to say this too when you asked me about this, but I think the better players are also switching to Cat because it has a better Enel matchup, and I think Cat is slightly more aggressive into Sakazuki, which could be, even more dangerous. So I think the better players are switching to Cat, which is why the win rate's going up.
yeah. So that actually answers the question perfectly, which is what do we think the better yellow deck is going to be going into this tournament? Because I do agree with you that all the data and I guess player opinion is moving towards Katakuri. Which is super interesting to me. I wonder why as well. We might have seen such a poor Katakuri showing at the beginning of O5, and then now we're starting to figure out like maybe Katakuri is the better deck here. Do you have any insight onto that?
Yeah, the people that I've been coaching a couple people on Katakuri as well, and the reason being is like not only going into a Nell like the matchup, do you have knowledge of their last trigger, which is usually just like so important, right? Like going for a
For
game against a
sure.
Nell, half of it is like, damn, like do they got this beige in there? Like I don't know. So like you're able to like easily like play around a Nell, and then also like the huge thing is like you can see like their trigger and then like you can put it at the bottom or like you could put it like you can just track it, right? Like even if you put like the next card at the bottom, okay, that Shirahoshi's the second to last card. Then like when you're at that point, you can just big mom it and just trash it for free, right?
For
Or
sure.
they could trash their own with like with Linlin. So you can like just like out like maneuver the other yellow deck, and like you have the superior boss monster with which is big mom. Like that's way better than Yamato. So like that alone, like on top of a 7K swing is just like massive. And then just being able to just like Katakuri, just being able to 7K into like with a leader effect is just really good. Like 7K swings are like just so dangerous. I mean, that's what makes Whitebeard. Whitebeard's a 6K leader that like is just really good because he's a 6K leader. Like attacking for 7K is just very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I think forcing two cards out of hand is very strong for one
Yeah.
Dawn, right? Just
Yeah.
to keep your cards in hand. I think that is an underrated part of Katakuri, especially in the Sakazuki matchup, where maybe they don't play a lot of cards early. They throw a pudding down, maybe a Parasparrow, but if they're not going on that curve and they just want to just get into Sakazuki's life before the 7 mom, the 10 mom, the Katakuri comes down, you could be in a lot of trouble in that matchup if you don't maneuver that situation properly.
I saw a guy literally not do anything. Like the guy, one of the Sakazuki players on my stream, left a pudding. Like the guy, he left a pudding on the field for like the entire game, and the guy was just putting Dawn on pudding and his on his leader and just swinging for like 7 to 8K every single turn. And the other guy like refused to attack into the pudding for some reason, and he kept putting but Dawn on pudding, and he ended up winning the game because like he set up a couple blockers at the end, and he Amaru Thunderbolted and just went for game.
Oh
And I was
yeah.
like, yo, like this guy literally just won a game of Katakuri against Sakazuki without playing a single card. Like it's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's so aggressive.
One of the like strategies I've been trying to figure out in that matchup is like, can I just give up all my life and get cards in hand and then get enough blockers to be like pseudo life to make sure that on that 10 Dawn turn that they're less inclined to play 10 Mom because they're not going to trash any of my life, and then you're just kind of holding on for dear life after that. It's not a very effective strategy, I think, but
Nah, probably not. I like
yeah,
to hover at like one, maybe.
yeah, but those 10 moms can be so
Demoralizing.
backbreaking. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Such a good card.
The
Oh,
second,
real quick, can
yeah,
I tell you a funny story?
yeah, absolutely.
Uh, one of the guys that came from Jacksonville to this case tournament in Orlando was new to the game, and he was playing Purple Luffy. And round one, he sat against a Katakuri player, and he dropped 10 cost Big Mom, and he had to read it because this is the first time he actually played against like Katakuri. And he's like, okay, so I just get like I take my life and add it to my hand, right? And the guy's like, no, you trash it. And his face was like Oh my God, that's broken. Like, I told him, I was like, I wish I could have recorded you like realizing what 10 cost Big Mom did for the first time, because that would have been the greatest video ever. Like, he was dumbfounded that that card did what it did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
So funny.
oh man, it's a vanilla, and then the cost of having no counter is, oh, you just get a life, but also they lose a life. Like that
Yeah.
huge 2 life swing is so big, especially the life that they get could be a Sanji, it could be a T-Bolt that randomly kills the Borsalino that's on your field as you swing on your turn, or what have
Always
you, right?
happens. They
Yeah,
always got the Thunderbolt, bro.
yep. When you have the Borsalino on board, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They control it, bro. They hard the cards that for
Yeah,
real.
yeah. So I guess the second question is, listen, from these results that I listed out in North America and the EU results, and from your commentary during some of this, Newgate seems really strong. Are good Newgate's players well positioned for a deep run in LA?
That all depends on if they play Anel or not. Because Anel is like the ultimate, like, I'm gonna just ruin your fucking tiebreakers
But
deck.
but but we're seeing a bunch of NL players switch back to Katakuri. So maybe I don't know. It really does depend, I guess, on potentially what entries there are for NL. Um,
Absolutely.
but I guess that's the thing is, like, is a good Newgate player able to maneuver that matchup effectively enough to actually again have deep runs at this tournament?
Yeah, so to answer your question straight up, yeah, Newgate can definitely make a top eight in this tournament, like absolutely. But also, it depends on their matchups. I think if they play like three Anels, I don't think they'll make a top eight because I think Anel is so good at surviving that like obviously Newgate like wants to, especially this version of Newgate, right? If you're playing into a tournament full of Sakazukis, you have to go full on aggro, and against Anel, like full on aggro doesn't work. It's like that meme of SpongeBob where like he keeps breaking Squidward's clock and
Oh yeah,
he keeps like
yeah,
pulling a new one out of his closet. That's a Nell
yeah.
with his life. Like you'll keep like hitting him and like he'll just like you'll keep hitting his life and like breaking his life and then he'll just like pull out another one and you'll be like, all right, now take that one out. It's like if Newgate sees a bunch of Nels, which I don't know how likely represented it's going to be at Nats. I don't think it can go very far, but if it just sees like a bunch of Katakuris and Sakazukis, it definitely has a chance to make a deep run.
Yeah, based on the data just across, we're seeing slowly the Enel presence drop and slowly the Katakuri presence go up. I guess if you're a Newgate player, are you concerned about like Plouffe and RP Law and these other decks, or even like Blue Nami or some weird stuff that can happen, Blue Yellow Queen, things like that, or does that not matter? It's literally just about, do you run into an L or not?
Well, I mean, yeah, Blue Yellow Queen definitely can get Whitebeard as well, but I don't think people are going to be playing that at Nats. I mean, if they do, then more power to them. But I don't think that's a meta contender. I think what people really need to watch out for is this is what I said on I forgot what video I said this on, but I think Kid is a sleeper in this meta right now.
Yeah, we're about to get to that in the next question, I guess, which is, what are you kind of looking at for Nats? What are you choosing between as you decide? I'm a diehard Sakazuki player. I play the other decks. I just love the consistency of it. You're drawing 2 cards a turn. Everyone else is drawing one. Um,
Yeah.
I just think the deck is so consistent. It can go even pretty much into every matchup. You have a fighting chance into every matchup. So I'm a huge fan of that deck. But you mentioned Kid and your Sakazuki build. What are you looking at overall when it comes to what deck you're bringing to LA?
Sure. Yeah. So those are the two decks I'm looking at right now is Kid and Sakazuki. I personally think that like I'm great in the mirror match. Like not to like sound arrogant or anything, but I feel very confident in a mirror match, which is why like in the rank simulator, in that case tournament, and even at my locals, like my locals is full of Sakazukis, and I've won almost every week that I went to locals. Is I just feel very comfortable like in the mirror match with Sakazuki. So I am more inclined to take Sakazuki because I feel very comfortable with not only the mirror match but like my deck build right now. I just like it a lot.
Right.
But Kid feels like all the matchups that Sakazuki is like scared of playing against like Katakuri and Whitebeard and like um like even maybe Zoro if like they get like super aggressive. It feels like Kid just like immediately like just kills all of them. So like if you run into like the anti-meta kind of like people trying to run into Sakazuki, you could just ruin their day by like just like destroying them. And even like your Sakazuki matchup's pretty good. Like a 12-12 leader swing is pretty good, especially if you're playing something like Straw Sword or like Paradise Tatsuko to like rest blockers. Like you
For
can just
sure.
sneak games in like out of nowhere.
Can you explain for those who don't know kind of what the game plan of that kid deck is? My understanding is it's very event heavy. Is that fair to say?
Oh no, that's in my opinion not a very good version of the deck. I still think the best version of the deck is just like Supernova Straw or Supernova Film,
Yeah,
and basically all you're doing is like you're playing against Sakazuki is like you're just playing cards that like you think are gonna get cannon foddered out. Like you're playing like your Namis and your Usops and like your Zoros, and eventually like they're gonna let you like stick one of them on the board, right? Like film Luffy or 8 cost Kid or 10 cost Doflamingo,
sure.
and the whole time like if they like. Depending on what they do, you can just like at any point just go 12-12 leader swing and like end the game, right? So like you're being as aggressive as possible into them, and like they're gonna dedicate a lot of their dawn to like popping your board, and the dawn that they dedicate to popping your board, that is the turn that they can just like you could just like aggro them out of the game, and then you could just like take turns like alternating. Okay, I'm gonna build my board, and then you're gonna remove it, and then I'm gonna go 12-12, and then you're gonna try to build your board, and then I'm gonna play my board. You're gonna remove it, and then I'm gonna go 12-12. It just feels like it's just like a tug of war of like, okay, do you have 3 Borsalinos and 2 Rebeccas? If you don't, you're probably gonna lose.
Yeah.
And that's like the experience that I've been playing against is like they're gonna run out of removal or they're gonna run out of defense, and that's when you can just lethal them out of nowhere with Kid's leader effect.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. It feels like with that kid deck that you always have something to do, even if you have no cards in hand, which is not
Yeah,
true of a lot of other decks, right? That you're you can swing twice for 12k. I think Lucci is another good example of something where it's like, if I don't really have anything to do, like maybe I can do a similar like double attack, and it's always relevant. I think being a mono colored leader is also pretty important in this meta, right? Like having 5 life can be very valuable and makes a huge
definitely.
difference in those like yellow matchups, for example, where the life is slowly getting ground down by 7 cost Big Mom, 10 cost Mom, etc.
Oh, absolutely. Even stuff like Bello Betty, like if you run into a Bello Betty, having one extra life sometimes makes a huge difference.
Right.
And just being able to close, like I keep saying this, but like just being able to 12-12 and like close games out of nowhere is like such a powerful almost like gravity. Like I'm a big basketball fan, right? So like Steph Curry has a lot of gravity because he can
Yep.
just shoot from anywhere.
Yep.
And Kid just has a lot of like gravity because he can literally just kill you at any time. And like if you make the wrong play, like if you like try to clear board, or even if you don't try to clear board, if you like set up a bunch of blockers trying to like protect against the 12-12 attack, and then they just set up like, Luffy, Brook Sanji, like or I'm sorry, Usopp or even Nami, that's like a huge play.
Right.
And it's hard to like navigate like the like what you should do when like you're always one turn away from getting lethaled.
Right. That makes a ton of sense, actually. Yeah, that's an interesting deck tech, anti meta tech. I wonder how many people are gonna actually bring that to nationals, and whether that does have a huge effect on things. Like you mentioned, America, land of the free, land of experimentation.
Yeah.
We'll see how much of that actually shows up. What are your predictions? I know, of course, you're gonna predict that you're gonna win, which I think you should have the confidence to do that. But like in terms of general makeup, we're getting a cut. I believe is it to top 64 for Nats. There's like a day 2 cut kind of thing going on.
Hey, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say there's like a day 2 cut.
Hold on.
Everything good?
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, you just broke up a little bit for me.
Yeah, so there's like a day 2 cut kind of thing going on. What's your expectation for uh meta breakdown? Are you thinking there's going to be a lot of Sakazuki, and then I guess give me the top 4 or 5 decks in terms of representation, and then give me a sleeper deck that you think is going to perform well.
All right. Well, I'm guessing that there's going to be at least one Sakazuki in Top Cut. At least one.
Wow. Whoa.
I know that's a real like revelation right there, but yeah. So I mean, if we're talking about top 16, you're gonna see probably at least like 4 or 5 Sakazukis. You're gonna see a couple, like maybe like 1 or 2 of each of like the yellow decks. At most, like 5 of the yellow decks. Maybe 6. So it's gonna be like basically the entire thing is gonna be like one of the 2 yellow decks, and then you're gonna have like mostly Sakazuki, and then you're gonna have like 3 decks that are like coming out of nowhere. And I really think Kid can be one of them. It's probably one of them might be a Newgate, and I think the last one is gonna go for like a red green law. Like they're probably gonna like just like see all the right cards and like all the right matchups. They're gonna play against like Purple Luffy a bunch. They're gonna play against like Katakuri, and then they're gonna sneak into the top cut, and they're probably gonna lose. Like I don't think I very much predict Law if it makes into the top cut to lose and not even win like the tournament. Um, but yeah, those are some sleeper decks right there. I think that are going to make it to top cut. A real sleeper deck you want me to choose? I would say the biggest sleeper in this tournament is probably Rosinante.
Rosinante, that's an interesting one. The why do you think that?
Rosinante Rosinante is actually a pretty good deck that is super annoying. And if you don't have experience against it, it's kind of like a Nell where like they're just gonna run you over. And like people don't realize that the 2 cost Rosinante that can just like protect anything can just literally like you can't like Kaido anything, you can't like
You can't
Lucci anything.
Lucci. Yep.
Yeah. So like if you see a like obviously the goal is like to just like wall off with like Kid and stuff like that with Rosinante and being able to protect it with like your leader blocker. So like if you run into like Purple Luffy, you are going to like run them over, right? Because Purple Luffy just loses to 8 cost Kid. And then if you run into like a Nell, you're gonna like run them over because like you can just like be able to protect like your sugars and stuff and just like be able to like manipulate their board and like just run them out of cards. And then you drop the 8 cost Kid or like 10 cost Dofi or something like that. And then Sakazuki, if they don't see like their Hound Blazes or like their removal, like if they're not playing like
The
Mihawk
bottom
like I
deck,
am,
the bottom deck
yeah,
removal specifically. Yeah,
exactly. If they don't see that and they only see Lucci's, then they can't kill anything on their board. So I think Rosinante is actually a pretty good deck that needs a little bit more respect than it actually has. Because being able to protect a sugar is just like ridiculously good. Like they can't bait out the sugar anymore with like, playing like a 1 cost and then like attacking into it with, like, a Nami or something because like you can just protect it with your leader. Like they have to dedicate a lot of resources to protecting that sugar to killing that sugar, and they can just drop another one.
for sure.
So good.
I really like you shouting out Red Green Law. It's not a deck that we talked about at all, but in these events, it's not popping up at all, and yet so many people are thinking of it as this like sleeper potential, like sneaking into top 16 because it has good matchups pretty much everywhere, but at Sakazuki. So
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much right. It's I'm gonna go Sakazuki #1 represented in the top cut there. In top 16, I think we're gonna. I honestly would not be surprised if we saw half of top 16 be Sakazuki's at this tournament.
Yeah, probably.
I just think the deck is so consistent, and for really long form tournaments like nationals, where you could be playing like potentially 10 rounds, consistency does matter, and the most consistent deck piloted by good players is just going to have more of those top placements over time. So I'm definitely thinking. I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna say half of the top 16 is gonna be Sakazuki, which is a little crazy, but I'm gonna stick to that.
I wanted to say that too, but I didn't want to like just get killed for it.
Yeah,
But I really think at least
I'll
8.
jump in front of the bullet for you on that one.
Yeah, I think at least half will be Sakazuki. No lie.
Yeah, I think only
Yeah.
one NL will show up in the top 16, and
Wow.
I think a couple. I think we'll see a little more Katakuri. Like you mentioned, the best players seem to be switching to Katakuri, the best yellow players, and I just think like you take it similar to the consistency idea of Sakazuki. You take enough trips into that casino, a bunch of people are going to go broke, and right. So
That's a good analogy. Yeah, I like that.
I do think Katakuri will have a couple spots. I was gonna shout out Red Green Law as well. I think it can definitely make a top 16 run. Kid is super interesting. My sleeper pick of like, and I think a bunch of new gates are actually going to show up as well. Probably a similar amount of new gates to Katakuri's. My sleeper pick for this tournament is going to be Rebecca. I think
No way,
I
dude.
I think there could be a Rebecca in the top 16. I think that deck has an amazing Sakazuki matchup that is very
What?
underrated. Yeah, truly, I truly do.
Wow. We got
This
to talk about that then. I don't know if that's in your podcast terms,
no,
but
we definitely can take a few minutes to talk about that. I've definitely played that matchup enough times to see the starve version of that just roll over different Sakazuki builds that I tried. I play tested it, paper and sim. I think that matchup, if you don't know how to play against it properly, it just outvalues the Sakazuki over time, and it makes it very difficult for you to actually get anything off. The one thing is if they can establish a 10 cost Kaido in a position where they're very comfortable, it it evens up the matchup a bit because you're no longer starving them of resources. But I do think that matchup can be very difficult on the Sakazuki side if you don't know how to play against it. So I think if enough people are able to pilot the Rebecca well enough, I think we could see a Rebecca in top 16 with that in mind. It also has a horrible yellow matchup. Totally understand that. But it has a pretty good matchup into Newgate as well, to my understanding. So
so I played in the case tournament, I played a Rebecca and I won with 4 life and 8 cards in hand. I like with as much respect as I could possibly put on this guy's name, I massacred him. And it was
right.
I was getting so bored throughout the game. I was like on my phone like looking at memes like while I was playing this game. Like I really think that like Rebecca is just like as soon as I think it's a better I think it's easier playing Rebecca than it is red purple law like with my deck. I feel like it's just a free win.
Right.
I couldn't stress how easy that match was. Like when you said that has a great matchup in a Sakazuki, I actually was like shocked. Like I really didn't think that was even I thought it was like a
So
legit joke.
do you think like your version of Sakazuki dusts it, or do you think all versions of Sakazuki are completely favored into it?
So I don't know for sure, but I just know I've played a few with at least with the versions that I've tested, not this exact version, but I played a few Rebeccas and I've just made them either like disconnect on the simulator or just in real life I just beat that guy by like 8 cards. So like I don't know, but
well,
I have not feared him. I didn't even consider Rebecca as like a counter to this deck. Wow.
I'll say that guy is not making top 16. I'll tell you that. No, okay.
Probably not. Probably
But
not.
no, I'm sure he's lovely. Best of luck to
Yeah,
him
he
if
was
he
a nice
does
guy.
attend.
Nice guy.
But yeah, that's my sleeper pick. And again, it's a little wacky, of course. That's what sleeper picks are going to be
Yeah.
generally. But I think with you know reduced representation of NL in particular, and the fact that at least in my experience, piloting Sakazuki versus it can be very difficult. I do expect to see at least a strong Rebecca showing. My crazy idea is that it could sneak into top 16. It probably gets blown up immediately after, but that's my crazy expectation.
Yeah, I mean that's a really cool sleeper pick. So
Yeah.
I'm rooting for Rebecca. Shit, I mean
I
that'd be
love that
cool to see
deck.
it.
That's the deck that I started playing with. When I started playing the game, I started
Makes
with that
sense.
deck. So I love value engine kind of decks like that. That's why I gravitated towards Sakazuki as well. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my sleeper. But I think it'll be an interesting event nonetheless. Listen, Heart Pirates, TCG, thank you so much for joining us on the Romance Dawn One Piece TCG podcast. Anything you want to shout out before we sign off?
Nah, man. Thanks for having me. I actually I will do a couple shout outs. If you guys haven't checked out my channel, definitely check that out. That'd be great. But also like everyone's been so supportive of me like since I started this channel, and it's just been like great, like it really has been better than I ever could have even imagined, starting this out, making a deck profile on Blurple Crocodile. And it's like shout outs to just the whole community is just great. And I couldn't be more blessed to like actually just like be a relevant, content creator in this space. Like it's been so rewarding for me, not only to like meet people in real life at these events that like watch my channel, but like I consider like a lot of like the people in this community like my friend, right? The people I talk to on Discord, I consider like my friends because like I talk to them every day, right?
For
And then
sure.
obviously like the people at locals, it's been great, dude. It's been so great.
Yeah, glad to hear it. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think this particular TCG community is much kinder than the average one, at least from my experience. And a lot of people, it's a new game. Everyone wants it to succeed. Everyone loves the IP involved
Yeah.
in it, and I think it really shows in people's interactions with one another, especially in person. I totally agree with you. Like in person, especially, I've had nothing but the best to say about the way people handle themselves and are able to be as friendly as they are. The previous episode I outlined a situation where people were super nice to me after something rough happened at a first anniversary event, and everyone got together and they were able to be super charitable, and I really appreciated that. So from like the LGS owners down to the people who play those events, and people online as well. Yeah, such a caring, giving, friendly community. Totally agree with you there.
Yeah, couldn't be more thankful.
Awesome. Any other shout outs?
No, that's about it. Thanks for having me on. Obviously, guys, if you're just seeing this on like, YouTube, feel free to, I mean, it'd be great to subscribe to Gabe's channel, Romance Dawn. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be a listener in your future podcast as well.
Awesome.
So hopefully the algorithm does you justice.
Appreciate that a lot. And of course, subscribe to Heart Pirates TCG. Amazing videos if you want to learn how to play at a higher level. He's got some great videos on that. I personally love the pressure video in particular. I think that's a great one. Some great
That's
deck,
my favorite one.
yeah, great deck profiles as well. Hey Joey, thanks so much, man, for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that is it. That is the Romance Dawn One Piece TCG podcast. See you guys out there on the TCGCs.